The Indianapolis Colts have finally agreed to a deal with free agent wide receiver Keenan Allen. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Colts. I'm Zach Hicks. That's Jake Arthur, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Join all the action at FanDuel.com to play daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a home run this MLB season. On today's show, we are talking all about the latest news with the Indianapolis Colts. They've agreed to a one-year deal with free agent wide receiver Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen is 34 years old, but is still coming off a 700-yard season with the Los Angeles Chargers, where he played a major role for them. He played for 7 years with Shane Steichen back with the Chargers. They overlapped for quite a long time. This was something that we were anticipating for most of the offseason, and it finally gets done as training camp is wrapping up. So you can kind of tell this is like a veteran receiver because he clearly did not want to do the whole training camp gambit here this offseason. So today we're going to react to the overall news, what this means for the Colts offense. We're going to break down the wide receiver room in general and where this could leave a couple of players on the fringe, if they can still make the team or not. And then finally, we're going to close it out with the Colts' biggest remaining needs and just overall talking about this team going forward. But Jake, this has been something that I think every single beat writer who has been at practice at all 12 training camp practices has been clamoring for every single day. Like, please go sign Keenan Allen. He knows the offense. He has that relationship with Shane Steichen, and we just can't see Laquan Treadwell starting games this year. So go get Keenan Allen. They finally did it. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, it's one of those like worst kept secret type of things. We got to find out why it's taken so long to get to this point. Because it's been very obvious since the offseason in like May and June when we first started seeing them in OTAs and minicamp. Like, Ashton Dulin is a nice thought. Like, maybe you can increase his role a little bit, but if this is an all-in season like you guys are indicating, then you're really hedging your bets on the potential of Dulin, Laquan Treadwell, Nick WESTBROOK-IKHINE, these guys potentially playing like 50 snap per game roles for you, depending on if an injury happens. And let's be real here. Like, Alec Pierce has a history of getting a little banged up, still hasn't practiced yet this year. Josh Downs, I mean, he plays from the slot, but he's supposed to be playing a little more outside. He has a history of injuries. You're just like, it was such a weird bet to go into the year like this at receiver. So this was an absolutely necessary move. You weren't going to get anyone with real star power, I don't think, at receiver at this stage. You're not going to go get a real younger guy. I think this fit with Keenan Allen is very appropriate. You're not really looking for a star. This doesn't push Alec Pierce out of his role as the top guy. It doesn't even really threaten Josh Downs or Tyler Warren. What it does is it gives you a hooper on money downs, essentially. You need to go get a bucket when it's third or fourth down. You need a guy to sit down in the soft spot of his zone or hit a good slant and find the open spot. Keenan Allen will do that for you. To me, this is very reminiscent of, like, you look at guys like Reggie Wayne, Robert Woods, DeAndre Hopkins, as they got a lot older. They were good route runners and they knew how to get open a little bit. They weren't ultra athletes anymore, but they were still able to be productive beyond 30 years old. I don't think he's going to go get you 600-700 yards, but I think he's going to be a very effective role player. And again, this was a very necessary move for them. And I'm glad the storyline is done. We can quit talking about receiver being a huge need and specifically Allen being that need. Because remember last week, it was like, Traquan Smith is someone they worked out. Equinemius St. Brown. They were almost teasing us with these guys who were just almost glorified camp bodies that they were working out. And then so the charade is now over. Keenan Allen as a Colt.
Yeah, and I think, when people look at like Keenan Allen's age, they think this is a guy who like where DeAndre Hopkins is currently, right? Where Hopkins is unsigned and he hasn't been productive in years, where Allen was a big part of an offense last year. You can argue if he should have been a big part of an offense, right? But he had 122 targets last season. for 777 yards and 4 touchdowns with the Los Angeles Chargers. Those would have ranked pretty high on the Colts, including like with similar numbers to what Michael Pittman Jr. did for the Colts last year. So in terms of like, can he replace Pittman's role like 1-to-1? I think he could. I just don't want him to have that big of a role with the Colts offense. And I don't think it's going to be like that massive of a role. But I do think he's fully capable of running the entire route tree that Michael Pittman Jr. ran with the Colts last year. I did a video, I think it was a solo episode I did on here about 2 to 3 months ago. It was like back in like April or May. And I talked about replacing Michael Pittman Jr. And basically through my charting, I found that Pittman ran 70% of his like targeted routes were under 10 yards. 90% of his targeted routes were under 20 yards last season. And Keenan Allen basically did that for the Chargers last year. He was their short to intermediate guy. He was a guy who found the space against zone coverage. If they ran high-low concepts, he was the low man, and they were able to move the sticks with that. So I think getting him out there on third downs, getting him out there on some of the early downs, like I do expect Doolin's role to still be bigger on offense this year, just to add that speed element. And especially when you want, Alec Pierce to play some Z snaps, you can get Doolin out there as the X just to run off corners on the other side and get Pierce more targets that way. So I do think Doolin's going to have a big role on offense still. But this is really when it comes down to like 3rd and 5, we need to get a first down. Let's get Keenan Allen on the field instead of Ashton Doolin, because he is your bucket getter. He's a guy who, despite his age, can still get open and can still find space and move the sticks for us like he showed last year. So I like this signing, even as someone who was not as down on the Colts wide receiver room. I was still a really big proponent of going out and getting Keenan Allen because he did make things a lot easier for the offense. So as long as he is like the 4th or 5th most targeted guy in the offense, I am perfectly fine with this signing. Now, if he somehow becomes the most targeted guy in the offense, then I'm a little bit concerned. But if his targets hover around like, 60 targets this season, he gets like 400 to 500 yards receiving, I would call that a really productive and good season for the Colts and Keenan Allen.
Yeah, I was just looking at just Twitter before we hopped on here, and Ryan Paganetti put out like a 4-minute long video of Allen's best catches from last year, mind you. So this would, going into last year, I think a lot of people expected Allen to be kind of washed. He went out and had just like a kind of a so-so year with Chicago, came back to the Chargers, and I think everyone was like, all right, this is kind of like a farewell tour type of year. And really it wasn't. He was productive. Like when I saw those plays, he's never been a fast guy. Even coming out of Cal, he was always a technician, a route runner with amazing hands. Basically, that was always Keenan Allen's game. And I see a guy who still can definitely get open. He understands how to set up routes and like how to get defenders caught up amongst themselves so he can get open, how to play off of his own mans and with these, route concepts. He definitely understands how to still get open. But after the catch, despite not being a fast guy, he still has this artsy agility to him. His very subtle ability to pick up extra yards and make some guys miss. It just seems like a very natural feel type of thing, almost how Josh Downs creates yards after catch. Not a burner, but he knows how to set guys up to, get themselves out of the way just to give him a few extra yards, So I'm not expecting this to be a move that like it's going to create a bunch of yak or anything like that. But like, I don't expect him to just sit down 5 yards downfield and boom, the play's over. I think Keenan Allen has a little bit of creativity left to his game.
Yeah, and I think you could easily make the case, too, that this is an upgrade over what Michael Pittman Jr. gave them last season, which maybe is bordering on hot take territory. But if you look at the numbers last season, I think 2 metrics really stand out. And I got these numbers from Sumer Sports, the best analytics site out there, because you can just filter down exactly how you want to look through certain players. But they had Keenan Allen with the 7th most routes run against man coverage last year and the 20th best total EPA in the league against man coverage, where Michael Pittman Jr. led the Colts with the 19th most routes run against man coverage, but he was 57th in total EPA. So he just wasn't very productive against man, where Keenan Allen did keep that productivity up. And then you go to late downs, the 3rd and 4th downs. This is where Keenan Allen really shined last year. He ran the 8th most routes on 3rd and 4th down down for the Charger or in the league last year, but on the Chargers. And he had the 5th best EPA on 3rd and 4th down among all wide receivers. Though that includes those top dogs who were battling for Offensive Player of the Year all year, where Michael Pittman Jr. led 151 routes run on late downs, which was 24th best in the league, but he was 56th in EPA, which was the 3rd ranking receiver on the Colts team. So even though like Downs and Pierce had fewer routes run than Pittman on those late downs, they were still better in total EPA, where Keenan Allen was among the best in all of football. So I'm not saying that Keenan Allen's going to repeat that this year, because I don't want his role to be as massive with the Colts, but it shows that he was a little bit more efficient in late down situations and against man coverage. And I think that's where the Colts really wanted to go when they moved on from Michael Pittman Jr. So I think this move makes the Colts better. Honestly, in some ways, I think this is an upgrade over Michael Pittman Jr. And I think that their wide receiver room is going to be better off for it. But coming up, we're going to look at the rest of the wide receiver room. As long as everyone's healthy, how does it work out? How does the players fall into place, and who is battling for those final couple roster spots?
What's going on, everybody? My name is Ross Jackson, host of the Locked On Saints podcast, and today's Locked On episode is brought to you by our friends at Basque and Lather. I've been using Basque and Lather's all-natural, 100% organic hair care products for my beard for a couple of years now, and it's been a lifesaver because I used to have some bad beard care habits. I'm talking over-the-counter shampoo and the beard type stuff that created this brittle, scratchy, and uncomfortable beard that I just had to wear around all the time. But now the game done changed. Thanks to Basque and Lather, I got their beard care starter kit, which gave me shampoo, conditioner, oil balm, and their hair growth stimulator formula as well. And now my beard is full. It's soft but strong, and the confidence is on 10, and it's all thanks to Basque and Lather. Explore viral bestsellers and products of healthier hair of all types from Basque and Lather. Go to basqueandlatherco.com and use the promo code LOCKEDON for 20% off. That's 20% off at basqueandlatherco.com, code LOCKEDON.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We are talking about the Colts signing of Keenan Allen. Of course, the move we've been waiting on for weeks and months has finally occurred. If you were still awake late last night when Jordan Schultz broke the news, then congratulations. You've been basking in this for a while now. But for those of you who woke up to the news, it is a one-year deal worth up to $8.32 million, loaded with incentives because, of course, Allen is a 34-year-old wide receiver. But we expect him to have at least some sort of reasonable role, not like a huge role, but he spent 7 years out in Los Angeles and San Diego with the Chargers with Shane Steichen out there. The last couple, they were directly offensive coordinator and top receiver together. So should be able to hit the ground running. When Allen returned to the Chargers last year, it was in August also. So this is a guy that keeps himself in shape. And since he knows the playbook, I imagine he should be able to, again, hit the ground running. The Colts do have 2 training camp practices left against the Atlanta Falcons on Wednesday and Thursday, so I'm pretty eager to see if he's going to be out there.
I don't think so. I think
you don't think so?
I think he waited this long because he doesn't want to do all that kind of stuff.
I've got to imagine. Maybe he'll report to the team, but not practicing yet.
I think that's what it was. Or maybe he does some of like the one-on-one stuff and the team stuff. He's like, nah.
I want to talk to him before like next week and all that. Like I want to talk to the guy coming up as soon as possible. But we'll have all that for you guys here. But let's talk about the rest of the receiving room now. So if we're just breaking it down from X, Z, and slot, Zach. So we got at X, just by base, Alec Pierce, Laquan Treadwell, Eli Pankel, EJ Horton, and Samir Hagans. We know who is in the mix and who's not there. At Z, Keenan Allen is going to be the new starter there, presumably, with Ashton Dulin providing some support now, especially when it comes to blocking and things like that. You want Dulin more involved there. Nick Westbrook-IKHINE, who I now think is in danger. Deion Burks, DJ Montgomery, and Ben Nickel. In this slot, you've got Josh Downs, Anthony Gould, Coleman Owen, and Raylan Sharp. So, Zach, I do think this changes some things. Nick Westbrook-IKHINE has been having a pretty good camp coming into here. And now I look at this and I'm like, either both he and Laquan Treadwell are not making this roster.
Right. Right. No, I completely agree with you. I think the 4 absolute locks are not going anywhere whatsoever are going to be Pierce, Downs, Allen, and Ashton Dulin. Those are going to be your guys who are 100% going to be on the team. The only question with Dulin is if we see him get back on special teams a little bit now, or
Yeah.
if he's going to continue just working exclusively on offense. So that'll be interesting to see in the next time we see practice. But those guys will be on the team. I do lean WESTBROOK-IKHINE because of how well he's performed this offseason, but Laquan Treadwell has been with the first team earlier than WESTBROOK-IKHINE was this offseason.
Treadwell has taken every first team rep that he can. I don't think I've seen him with the second group.
Yeah, so I do think that's going to be more 50-50, and those guys will be battling for that 5th wide receiver spot. So whoever can provide more on special teams, who can provide more as a blocker, because that's probably the one area where they really lose with going from Pittman to Keenan Allen is the blocking aspect on the offense. So I do think that that is going to be part of the equation here. So that 5th spot will go to one of those guys. And then the way I break it down for the 6th spot, Jake, is it's going to be whoever our punt and kick returner is going to be. So either Coleman Owen, Anthony Gould, or Deion Burks. And I've seen some Colts fans say, like, okay, we think Burks can get that. If it were off of what I've seen this offseason, I know you can even clarify that more, Jake.
Yeah.
I think it's a 2-man race between Owen and Gould unless Burks does something crazy here the next few days. Like, he just hasn't gotten enough run on special teams, and when he has, it hasn't been more noteworthy than Gould or Owen. And as of right now, I would say Owen is really in the driver's seat because Gould is hurt and he didn't play in the first preseason game. So we'll see if that solidifies itself, because sometimes teams, it doesn't matter like that. Like, they just have their hierarchy already, and Gould getting hurt doesn't matter. But I mean, I would lean, I guess, towards Owen right now, but I'm biased. I know I'm biased when it comes to that, Jake. Where do you kind of fall with that 6 wide receiver spot?
Yeah, it's funny because today's original plan was to be a 53-man roster projection before the Keenan Allen news broke. I think I probably have Owen too. I think there's good reason for all of them. Like with Gould, he's the incumbent. He's been doing it for a couple years for you now. But again, he's got a groin injury, missed the last couple practices, missed the last game. Owen is probably the most effective all-around player. I think he's the most responsible on special teams. And other than the ball coming out, slipping out of his hands on the interception last Thursday, which you can assign blame in multiple spots, he's a pretty effective receiver in practice. Burks is the most dangerous receiver of the 3. Like, the highest upside is easily Burks. So I do think Owen is the one where they have to rack their brain the least. Like, the one they have to talk themselves into the least, I think, would be Owen. Because he's like, Gould has hardly touched the field at all on offense. It's really all been in the return game. I think they'd be much more willing to let Owen see the field as a backup slot receiver. So
Yeah.
all those things included, I think Owen is probably in the driver's seat there. When it comes to Burks, it's like all projection. I think he would have to have an awesome next couple weeks. Otherwise, I just have not seen quite enough yet to say that he's making the roster over these guys who give you some instant gratification in Owen and Gould.
So here's the routes that I see them possibly going with this, and you can chime in afterwards. With Anthony Gould, that's your best kick returner of the bunch. I do think he's probably a better kick returner than Coleman Owen. He's got more speed, more explosiveness. He's done it at a higher level. Like last season was his best year as a kick returner. So if they go Gould, they want that high-end kick returner. Punt return's been a little bit iffy with him over the years, but I do think if they go with Gould, it's more kick return. If they go with Owen, it's because they wanted the best punt returner. Every time we've seen him returning punts, whether it's preseason, offseason, whatever, he's easily been the best guy of the bunch, and he's very similar to like a Josh Downs, where he catches everything, he gets the positive yards, he gets down. It's kind of what he's at his best with. If they go Deion Burks, I think you have to have Dulin as your kick returner and Downs as your punt returner, because Burks just hasn't really shown enough yet at those 2 spots. So if they go Burks over those 2, it's purely saying, hey, we don't want to lose Burks on the waiver wire. We want to just stash him and see what he can be down the line. So I do think there's an avenue for all 3 of these guys. I just think for me, I think you can easily put like Dulin and McGowan back at kick returner, right? If you don't like Owen back there, which Owen's been fine as a kick returner, but you can put Dulin and McGowan back there, right? You can put McGowan and Bentley or McGowan or, whoever back there at kick returner. punt returner is the most valuable aspect of this 6 wide receiver spot. And for me, I'd rather have the consistency of Coleman Owen back there, who last preseason and this preseason has shown that he can do that at a pretty solid level. So that's where I fall with it. But I do think there's an avenue for all 3 of these guys, although I do think the Deion Burks avenue is the most like far-fetched one.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to kind of project. Is I do think now that Doolin has to take a step back offensively, I think he's their best kickoff returner on the team. He's got very good speed, good size, good strength, and we've seen him, like, it feels like the last couple of years, every time he's touched the ball on a kickoff, something good has happened.
Right.
So I think the best case scenario is Doolin is the new kickoff returner. And like you said, Owen, like, I think he could be an effective punt returner. He's not maybe going to give you the explosiveness of Gould or Burks, but he's the most responsible one probably. So I think you have Owen make the group among those 3, and then you have Doolin as your kickoff returner with McGowan as the up man, the lead blocker on kickoff returns. I think that's probably your best case scenario the Colts could be looking at.
And then where do you fall on the Westbrook-Ikhine versus Treadwell? Like 60-40 Westbrook-Ikhine versus Treadwell, or where do you kind of fall with that?
I would say Westbrook-Ikhine. Treadwell broke out as a special teamer last year and was really good, but like Westbrook-Ikhine has played special teams basically his whole career. He could be a gunner. He got some work at personal protector in the rotation a couple days ago as well. So Westbrook-Ikhine is also very, very useful on special teams and has a higher upside as a receiver than Treadwell is. Like, I like Treadwell for what he is, but it's been 10 years. And he's never been a productive receiver in the NFL. Meanwhile, Westbrook-Ikhine has, and you're not asking him to do a lot. So I would fall on Westbrook-Ikhine on that. So I guess among those last 2 spots we're talking about, Westbrook-Ikhine makes it over Treadwell, and then Owen makes it over Gould and Burks.
Yeah, I think I completely agree there. And one thing with Treadwell too, much easier to get him to the practice squad than it is Westbrook-Ikhine. So
sure.
I do think that they have an avenue there with that, but we'll see what's in store these next few days. We'll see what Keenan Allen looks like in training camp if he gets out there on the field. But coming up, guys, we're going to talk about other needs and just where this roster stands going into the final week of training camp and into the last 2 preseason games.
All right, baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, then FanDuel is going to give you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. It's super easy to play. You're just going to make your free pick for who you think is going to hit a homer in the game. If you're right, you're going to receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all is you can make a free pick every day throughout the MLB season. Daily Dingers is another fun way to stay engaged with every day's games, whether you're following your favorite team or you're just keeping an eye on matchups across the league. Every game has someone capable of going deep, and now you get the chance to make your prediction before the first pitch. There's certain players where every at-bat just feels like something big could happen. That's what makes Daily Dingers fun. You get to back the players that you think are going to go deep that day, and then you get to cash in if you're right. So, are you ready to play your game today? Join all the action at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to play Daily Dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of the MLB. All right, welcome back, everybody. We are breaking down the Colts signing of Keenan Allen, and now I guess we move beyond the point where we're talking about Keenan Allen and the receivers. We're looking now at the biggest remaining needs on the roster, because you definitely could have made an argument for receiver being the biggest need on the roster before now, and now I think you're all good. You kind of have everybody in their spot serving their purpose, and you have legitimate battles there. So I think we feel better about it now. But when you look beyond that, Zach, you know, I had 4 areas that I looked at and was like, this could use some help. And even so, you kind of have to just let things play out as they are. I don't know that they make any more significant moves at this point. You know, I look at edge, but again, that is what it is. We've talked about that. There's a lot of bodies there, and I just don't know that you can add any more to it without it being a trade where you take somebody else out. Backup one tech, O-line depth, especially right now with the injuries they're dealing with, and then cornerback depth. If you don't like what you've seen from Jonathan Edwards, Mekhi Blackman, you could certainly bring somebody else in.
Yeah, I think the big one will be offensive tackle depth. That's going to be the one to watch, just because we don't know the severity right now of Luke Tenuta's injury. And if that's going to be like a long lasting injury, then the Colts, I mean, I still think that Gonzalez is their swing tackle, but I think they want another reliable tackle on there. And even if they say they like Blake Freeland, there's no way they actually do. I mean, are you watching anything? I mean, Jalen Tuamaloa was going to have 30 sacks this year just off of training camp stuff when he was going against Freeland, and then he goes against the Patriots fifth string offensive tackle and can't get any kind of push. So that just tells you everything you need to know about Blake Freeland. But yeah, like I could see them going out and getting like a veteran offensive tackle if Tenuta is not good to go. But aside from that, like I think at edge rusher, for better or for worse, they have their 6 guys. I just don't think that there's room unless they are shipping out one of these guys in a trade for someone else. I just don't think there's room to have another player in that spot. Again, for better or for worse, we can argue all we want about what that looks like. Backup one tech, I agree with you that it is a need and it's a concern for this team, but they have guys they like, for better or for worse. Yet again, right. That's going to be the quote of the day on here. I still think the best avenue with that is having multiple guys on the practice squad and just calling them up and going from there. But we'll see if they end up keeping 11 guys on the D line and keeping a backup one tech along with the 3 techs they have. In cornerback depth, I think that Lou Anarumo has a lot more faith in those bottom 2 guys than a lot of Colts fans do right now. So I don't expect any kind of move there. And if they did make a move there, I think it would just be Jalen Jones jumping over one of those 2 guys rather than like going out and getting someone else. Cause like Jalen Jones is probably better than any free agent corner that you can find out there right now. So I don't think we're going to see any more like big moves from the Colts or like big change. Like this was really the last big move that they're going to make before the season starts, unless a major injury happens. But I would keep an eye certainly on like offensive tackle signings in the next few days, maybe even in like a name that we actually recognize, just because they're down 2 guys. We don't know the severity of Tenuta's injury. And if Tenuta's going to be out for a couple weeks, then they certainly need like another playable offensive tackle to be that 4th offensive tackle in the rotation.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw, I tweeted this out earlier, but the Colts worked out yesterday, so Monday. They did work out 3 offensive linemen. Interior guy, Will Hernandez, I don't know if they'll make that move or not. That's a veteran who I think came into the league at the same time as Quentin Nelson. And then offensive tackles, Deontay Smith and Trey Wedig. Wedig is actually from IU, so I know some people are kind of intrigued by that one. So they are kicking the tires on tackle depth because it's not just Tenuta down right now, it's Rucci. And it's kind of causing some issues in the way they practice because they're having to put Josh Sills at tackle, even though he is a guard, and they're having to kick Matt Gonzalez down to 3rd team right tackle. You know, it's just affecting the way they're having to do things. So I don't think we're going to see anybody brought in beside like camp bodies, like random camp bodies that hardly any of us have heard of, until roster cut down time, where maybe they make 2 or 3 waiver pickups to replace some of their own guys. But Zach, I'm with you. When it comes to like one tech, for example, I think that is just going to be a churn from the practice squad. Like maybe you bring on Tillery and Cam Ball on the practice squad and you kind of rotate those guys throughout the season when you need them. Like if you think you're going to be facing a run heavy attack that week, you bring in one of the extra noses. But yeah, I don't really expect any more moves that move the needle beyond this one.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, again, like a backup tackle could move the needle a little bit. And like Deontay Smith, I think has started some games back with the Bengals a couple years ago. I remember him coming out of ECU, and you were correct about Hernandez. I think he did come out in that 2018 draft. I want to say he was either sandwiched between Braden Smith and Quentin Nelson picks, or he was right after Braden Smith. I know he was like an early 2nd round pick in that draft. I think Giants, from the Giants. Yep. Yeah. Big bruising player. I think he played a little bit last year. I remember.
So he was with the Giants with Daniel Jones, and then he went to the Cardinals for a while.
Right.
But I don't know what he did most recently.
I wonder if he overlapped with Sperano Jr. there in the Giants then, because remember Sperano Jr. was there with the Giants for a bit. So we'll have to look at that after the show. But yeah, that could make some sense as a depth signing. And maybe it could be a sign that they want to get Farmer some of those tackle reps. I don't know. I'm just speculating here because who knows exactly where they're going with that 9th offensive line spot. But Yeah, I think an offensive line signing could be significant. Like if they made one the next couple of days, it could be a guy who could make the roster. But any other signing they'd make between now and cut downs, I don't think would be like a roster guy. It would be like, oh, Raylan Sharp got hurt. Let's get another 90th guy in here, something like that, but we'll see the big moves on roster cut downs, maybe claim a tackle like they've done in the past. I think they claimed like a Dolphins tackle a couple of years ago on waivers who didn't really last that long on the team, but was there for depth. So I think we could see a move there, but outside of that, I don't expect too many more moves from this Colts team. I think Keenan Allen was the one we were waiting on and the one that we kind of expected. Honestly, you and I think expected this like a week or two ago. Like we didn't think it was going to be like this long into it, but we did kind of expect it to happen at some point. But I'm glad it's finally happened, and they have their veteran receiver out there to go alongside Downs and Pierce on the outside.
Yeah, I think Keenan Allen is just doing the I don't want to do training camp thing, because last year I think it was like August 3rd or 4th that he signed with the Chargers. This year he's probably like, man, I don't need to be out in training camp in Westfield, Indiana. I'll wait until they're back at the facility doing their thing. But with that, I think you only have to worry about, just I don't worry about conditioning, but, soft tissue injuries, I guess, and just not doing too much right off the bat.
Yeah, luckily they still have 26 days until the first game, so they still have plenty of time to get him involved in the offense, get him going. And look, you're going to run a lot of curls and drags. It's not the most complicated route tree in the book right now for him, so I think he'll be able to figure out with how long he's been in this league. He has a chance to break into the top 10 in receptions in a career this season. Actually has an outside shot of, I don't even want to say it's an outside shot. If he just repeats the production he did last year, which I hope he doesn't, but he could, right? Then I think he passes like Marvin Harrison for like 5th all time in receptions.
Yeah. He's already got over 1,000.
Yeah. So he's well on his way to a historic career. I mean, he's already had a historic career, but he has a chance to even cement himself as, one of those guys who like the longevity pushes him into those top ranks this year. So we'll see if he's able to hit those numbers. Really excited for Keenan Allen with this Colts team. And I think, again, like I said this a couple of times, I think in ways he can be an upgrade over what Michael Pittman Jr. gave them last season. And so thank you all for making Locked On Colts your first listen today. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Scouting as training camps near their end and moves are being made. Host Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. If you don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks2, all on socials. If you never miss an episode, the Everyday Club is built for you. Get us ad-free plus members-only Discord access and much more. Head to lockedoncolts.supercast.com to join the club. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow afternoon.